Okay, so equivalent expressions, day 2. We're going to go over what we learned yesterday. So in order to decide if two expressions are equivalent, we must simplify them. So we must simplify both expressions. Okay. Which tools/strategies do we have in order to simplify expressions? That is the distributive property, and combine like terms. Okay? So now let's look at example number 1, which says select all expressions that are equivalent to 8y minus 2 times 5y minus 12. Okay? So my first number 1 on my process, it says check the original expression. Can it be simplified? Looking at my original expression, which is this, I can see that I can distribute. So yes, I can simplify. So let's start doing that. I have 8y minus 2 times 5y minus 12. Okay? I'm going to separate that into 2. I'm going to distribute the right side. So distributing that negative 2 to the 5y first. Negative 2 times 5y. Okay. 2 times 5 is 10. I can't forget my y. And then I have to check my signs. I have a negative and a positive, which tells me I have a negative. Okay. My next one, I distribute my negative 2 to my negative 12. So I get negative 2 times negative 12. 2 times 12 is 24. I have a negative times a negative, which tells me this is going to be a positive. Okay. Now putting it all together into one expression, I bring down this 8y, and then I bring down the negative 10, so plus negative 10y, and then bring down my plus 24. Okay. Now I see I also have like terms, my 8y and my negative 10y, so I can combine those. Combining them, so I need to add. To check my signs, I have a positive and a negative, which tells me I am going to subtract. So this is going to be 10 minus 8. That is 2. Bring down that 2. And then I can't forget my y. Now I have to see if my 2 is going to be a positive or negative. Okay. Remember, with the sign rule for addition is the sign is based on what we have more of. In this case, our 10 is bigger, which means we have more negatives. This is going to be a negative 2y. And then I am going to bring down my plus 24. Okay? So this is our new expression that we're going to look for. Negative 2y plus 24. Okay. So let me draw a line just so we know that we're starting off something else. Okay? And number 2 on our process says simplify the expressions given as options. Looking at my options, I can simplify them. So starting off with A, I'm going to do negative times 12 plus 2y. Okay. I know that this is not just a negative, and I need to put a 1 there. And that is what I'm going to distribute in. So I'm going to do negative 1 times 12. 1 times 12 is 12. A negative times a positive is a negative, so that is negative 12. And then I'm going to distribute my negative 1 to my 2y. So negative 1 times 2y. 1 times 2 is 2. Can't forget my y. Negative 1 or negative times a positive makes it a negative. So in this case, my final expression for this is going to be negative 12 plus negative 2y. Or in other words, negative 2y plus 12. Or, sorry, negative 12. Neither one of those are the same as my original. Okay, let's keep that in mind. Now I'm going to do my next one, my b. Okay, so I have 2 times negative y minus 6. I'm going to distribute my 2. Okay, but before I do that, I need to remember that instead of it just being y, it is a 1y. Okay, now I can distribute. So 2 times negative 1y. So 2 times 1 is 2. Can't forget my y. And then I have a positive times a negative, which makes that a negative 2y. Okay. Now I distribute my 2 to my negative 6. 2 times 6 is 12. A positive times a negative is a negative. So this is going to be negative 2y plus negative 12. Now simplifying my last option, C, I have negative 2 times y plus 12. Remember that y is not just a y. It is actually a 1y. Now I can distribute. So negative 2 times 1y. 2 times 1 is 2. Can't forget my y. And then I have a negative times a positive, which makes that a negative. Okay. And now I distribute my negative 2 to my positive 12. 2 times 12 is 24. I have a negative and a positive, which makes that a negative. So this is actually negative 2y plus negative 24. Okay. So I have all of my options here. Looking at what I boxed in and my original expression, none of them are exactly the same, which tells me that none of these are equivalent. Okay, so my claim is going to say none are equivalent expressions. And that is how we do example number 1. Okay, so let's move on to example number 2. Again, select all expressions that are equivalent to 4 times negative 1.8y plus 3 minus 16. So check the original expression. Can it be simplified? Yes, because I can see I can distribute my 4. Okay, so let's rewrite our expression down here. So I have 4 times negative 1.8y plus 3 minus 16. Again, I'm going to separate that into 2 so that I can start distributing. So I have 4 times negative 1.8y. Okay. On the side, I am going to multiply these together. I have to see which one has the most digits. In this case, it is 1.8. 1.8 goes first, so it's 1.8 times 4. 8 times 4 is 32, so bring down the 2 plus 3 up here. 4 times 1, is 4 plus 3 is 7. And then I have to see how many decimal places I have. I have 1 up here and none for the second one, so that means I am only going to move this in once. So I have 7.2. Can't forget my y. And then I have to check my signs. So I have a positive and a negative, which makes that a negative. Now I'm going to distribute my 4 to my 3. So 4 times 3. 4 times 3 is 12. And if I wanted to check my sides, I have a positive and a positive, which makes this a positive. Now I can put it together into one expression. So negative 7.2y plus 12, and then bring down that minus 16. Okay. Here I have like terms. I have my 12 and my 16. Okay. If we don't know how to subtract like this, or we don't know whether our answer is going to be a positive or negative, I would suggest changing it to addition. So I'm going to circle that and box that in. This changes my expression to 7.2y. Oops, sorry. Plus 12 plus negative 16. Okay, now I can combine like terms. My negative 7.2y stays the same. And now I'm going to combine 2 plus negative 16. I have a positive and a negative, which tells me I'm going to subtract. So 16 minus 12. 6 minus 2 is 4. 1 minus 1 is 0. So I have a 4. And which one's bigger? My 16, which tells me my answer is going to be a negative. Last thing I need to do is bring down that plus. So now I have negative 7.2y plus negative 4, or in other words, negative 7.2y minus 4. One or the other. They are both correct. Okay. So using that, we're now going to check our options. So again, step 2 says simplify the expression given as options. Okay. So I have for A, it's negative 3.6y minus 4 plus 3.6y. Okay. I'm going to move things over so that my like terms are right next to each other. In this case, that is negative 3.6y and my plus 3.6y. And then I'm going to bring down my 4. Remember, they both have y's, which makes them like terms. Okay, now I can combine them. Okay, I have a positive and negative, which tells me I'm going to subtract. So 3.6 minus 3.6, that is 0.0, so 0. Okay. Then I bring down my negative 4, or my minus 4. And 0 minus 4 is just negative 4. Okay, so we'll come back to that later. Now I'm going to my B. So I have negative 9.2y minus 4 plus 2y. Again, I'm going to move things around so that my like terms are right next to each other. That makes my expression look like this. Negative 9.2y plus 2y minus 4. Because my negative 9.2y and my 2y both have that y in common. Okay. Now combining those, I have a positive and a negative, which tells me I am going to subtract. So 9.2 minus 2.0. Remember, in this case, we do need our decimals to line up because we are adding. So 2 minus 0 is 2. 9 minus 7, 9 minus 2, sorry, is 7. And then bring down my decimal point. That makes this a 7.2y. Now I got to see if it's positive or negative. My 9.2 is bigger, which makes this a negative. Okay. Then I bring down my negative 4. So my final expression for this is negative 7.2y minus 4. And last but not least, we're checking our C. So C says negative 2.2y minus 4 minus 5y. Same as the other ones, move over my like terms. In this case, it's negative 2.2y and my minus 5y. So this makes this negative 2.2y minus 5y minus 4. Okay. Remember, if you don't know how to subtract like this, change it to addition. So I'm going to circle this and box that in. Okay. What I'm going to combine. This changes things to negative 2.2y plus negative 5y minus 4. Okay. So let's combine those over here. Okay. So I have a negative and a negative, which tells me I'm going to add. So 5.0 plus 2.2. Remember, we're adding, so our decimal points do have to line up. Okay. So in this case, I have 0 plus 2, which is 2. 5 plus 2 is 7. And bring down my decimal point. Okay. And they're both negative, so this makes it a negative 7.2y minus 4. Okay. There you go. So now looking at all my boxed options, gotta see which ones match my original expressions. So remember, it can look like this or it can look like this. This one, my A, not right, because that is just a negative 4. My B is negative 7.2y minus 4, so that one is correct. Circle that. And then my C is also negative 7.2y minus 4. So that is also correct. Okay. So my claim is going to say the equivalent expressions are B and C. And we are done with that.